Hi, welcome back to Sew Yeah Quilting. My name is Teancum and today I'm going to show you how you make these super cool fabric bowls. We'll be using a jelly roll today. The line is called Farm Fresh. Let's get started. So first thing we have to do is decide how big we want our bowls to be. This right here is a 5-yard bowl, but you can make them as big or as small as you like. One jelly roll should make about 8 10-yard bowls, which is this size here. But for the video, I'll be doing a 5-yard bowl. So I've just opened up my jelly roll. And in a fabric bowl, we want to have lots of changes of color. So to achieve that, I'm going to slide these over here. I'm going to take one of our strips and I'm going to cut it randomly in a couple places so we can end up with 4 different strips. So right here I got about 6 inches. And then again over here, I'm going to just cut off the fold, which leaves me about 10 to 12 inches. I'm going to go ahead and do that to all of my strips. That way I have a different variation of all my colors in all my strips. So I've gone ahead and cut down all my strips. As you can tell, they're all different sizes. Now with the next part, as you can see, as I lift up the top layer, the next one down is wrong side facing up. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to sort through all these and sort them all into a pile of all the right sides facing up and all of our wrong sides facing up. This is only so I can keep everything in a color order and make 2 different piles. Now that I've separated into 2 piles, I'm going to remove one pile and just work with this pile here. Our next step of what we need to do is we need to take a strip and we need to cut it directly in half. As we know, a jelly roll is a 2.5 inch strip, so directly in half would be 1 1/4 inches. As you can see, I have 2 equal halves. So I'm going to do that to this whole stack here, and then we'll move on to the next step. I've gone ahead and cut these all down to 1 1/4 inch strips now. I'm going to go ahead and take one of these strip sets and set them aside for a different fabric bowl. I'll only be using these strips here to make my fabric bowl. One thing that I really want to make sure of is that I don't have any white strips at the end, just for looks really, so I don't put the white on the bottom of the bowl. I want it somewhere in the middle. So I'm just going to check through real quick and make sure, and everything looks just fine there. And we're going to go ahead and take this over to the machine now and start sewing. Now that I have all my strips at the machine, I'm going to treat this as if it was binding. So I'm going to go ahead and put right sides together, making a 90-degree, and I'm going to sew directly across. That way I have all my strips in a row. As you can see, when I open it, I'm going to have one long straight line. I'm just going to keep building on top of this, taking in the color order that I've stacked up all my fabric. So as you can see here, I have a salvage edge and I have a salvage edge on my next piece. All I'm going to do is line them up so the salvage edges are sticking out a little bit, and they'll be cut off at the end. Okay, I've gotten all my strips sewn that I want to sew together. I'm going to take it to the cutting mat and see how much I have. That way I can get the appropriate amount of cording. So that's 1 yard, that's 2 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards. We're looking at about 4 2/3 yards. So I'm going to go ahead and run into our store real quick and get about 5.5 yards of cording. That way I have plenty extra for this project. So I just got our cording. This right here is 4/32 cording. It's really important that you get this size for this project. I'll go ahead and leave a link in the description below. That way you can purchase any of the supplies that I've used here today. So we're going to go ahead and set this cording aside, and we're going to finish working on our tubes here. So I'm going to take all these strips over to the sewing machine. I'm going to fold them directly in half. And on this machine I have a 1/4 inch foot. And what I'm going to want to do is sew just a hair shy of 1/4 inch, more like a scant quarter. That way I have enough room for my cording. We're going to go ahead and sew all the way down and take some time on this to make sure that our halves are lining up properly, that we're not having any wonky seams. And as you can see, right here is the side of my 1/4 inch. I'm just to the left of that. Okay, as you can see, I have one really long tube now. And so if you do have a turning stick, now's the time to pull it out and use it. This would turn in just a couple minutes with a turn stick. However, I'm just going to use the old school safety pin method, just because it's the most common thing that people have. The thing that's so important is to put the safety pin about a ½ inch down from the hole. That way you can get a really nice grip on the fabric, and to just take your time. Take a couple minutes to set it all up right and to start turning it. If you're worried about the safety pin opening, just put a little bit of tape around it. That way it won't ever open up. For the big bowl here, I turned this whole thing in about 20 minutes. Here we're obviously only dealing with about 4.5 yards of fabric or in cording. It will only take maybe 10 minutes to turn this whole thing. I just made it to the other side, so I'm going to take out my pin, just like so, and we're just going to finish pulling it through the rest of the way, which this part goes really, really fast. Okay, now that I'm getting to the end, it's taken me about 8 or 9 minutes to turn this whole thing, not too hard. And now the next step is going to be stuffing the cording through this. And it might seem like that will be a little bit difficult, but since we have the right size cording, it'll be a breeze. So using that same safety pin method, what's going to be important is on the end of your cording, you need to wrap it with tape. That way it doesn't fray out on us. And then you're going to stick it just like I did on the last one, about a ½ inch down, and you're going to pull it all the way through the top, just like so. And then we're going to start stuffing. The initial part is going to be the most difficult, just so that everything lines up and you can actually stick it through the hole or the piping. But as soon as you get it in, it starts going just as fast as what we were doing just a minute ago. Okay, so I'm about 25 minutes in. That's including turning the tube and stuffing the tube. And I'm right at the end of this. All I gotta do is straighten this all out. This is why it's nice to have a little bit extra so you can hang out the cord on each end. I'm probably gonna have about 1.5 foot extra of cording. So let's get this all the way stretched out. Let's see how much is left. So I got about 1.5 foot extra. Let me make sure everything's straight. And now I'm going to take this sewing machine and put up a different one. That's a straight stitch only machine. I'm gonna need a machine with a zigzag, so I'm gonna go ahead and change that and we'll be right back. Our sewing machine's all set up, and like I said to begin with, I've got this little tail of cording left. I'm gonna go ahead and cut that off. We're gonna remove that, and then I'm gonna slide the cording down just a little bit. That way I can fold this end over so there's no raw edge showing. Just like so, and we're gonna start wrapping this guy up. We're just making one big coil. So I'm wrapping. I'm gonna wrap it until I have a coil about 2 to 3 inches round. As you can see here, I'm starting to get a little coil. That right there is about 2 inches. I'm gonna take a flower pin. I'm gonna stick it straight through so it can hold everything in place. Just like so. Flower pin holding everything down for me. The most important part when we start doing this is we want our cording to be on the right side because we're going to be spinning this to the left. So as we're spinning, it's going to be creating the next coil. So that's really, really important. We're going to go ahead and lift our pressure foot all the way up and slide this guy right into the middle. And this is a really good time to have a clear foot instead of a full metal foot. That way we can see what we're doing. And this first part's a little bit tricky, but as long as we have another pin to work with, it'll help us turn everything. That's why I like to have this pin where it is right now. But I'm gonna go ahead and grab one more pin. Or actually I'm gonna use this extra long seam ripper. I'm gonna drop my pressure foot. And you want your needle to stop in the down position always. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And this is the really tricky part of the whole thing, is just getting this first coil going. And right here, in between my foot, I can see my coil that I'm going to start turning around. So I'm just gonna keep on turning. It kind of takes a second to get around these first couple ones, and then it starts going really, really fast. So I'm using this flower pin here to help move everything along. So I'm going to take a pause now. I'm going to pull out my flower pin here, now that everything's locked down with stitches. And you can see how my coil is kind of getting a little bit wonky. We need to uncoil it really, really quickly, just like so. I'm going to pull the whole mass through. I'm going to do that 2 or 3 times till we get back to the size that we've been working with, just like so. And now we're just going to keep going around. And you want to keep this disc that we're working with right now as flat as possible. So you can see me forcing everything down a little bit. Now that we've got about 1.5 inch, almost 2 inch center, we're going to do this one more time and unwrap the coil. And now all we have to do is focus on stitching this leader to the coil. And if you start to notice on your coil that your stitch width is a little bit too big or a little bit too small, now's the time to adjust it. Right now I can see mine's just a little bit too small, so I'm going to adjust it to a little bit wider. So for the bowl that I'm making, I want my base to be around 3 inches wide, so I'm going to go ahead and check that real quick. I'm right at that 3 inch mark. So now as I'm coming around, all I'm going to do is pull up this bowl a little bit, and it's going to start creating that bowl shape that we're looking for. So you see I'm just pulling up a little bit on it. And the harder you pull up, or the more you pull up, the faster your bowl is going to get tall. So I'm going to keep this about the halfway point and slowly build on it. And if you make a mistake, like I'll show you here what happened, that I didn't connect the bowl right here, all I'm going to do is take a seam ripper and peel this back and then start right there. So as you can see, I'm getting to the end here. So what we're going to want to do is take our scissors and we're going to pull this down about 1/2 inch, just like so. And then we're going to cut our cording. And then we're going to pull it back up. And all we're going to do is fold this in one turn, just like this. And we're going to attach it to the side of the bowl, and I'll show you once we get there. We're coming to the end. I'm going to just tuck this right here underneath. And you're going to come all the way out to the edge. And this is the only part where we have to reverse. So I'm just going to give it one reverse. Just like that. We're going to cut our threads. Okay, so right there, we've just finished our fabric bowl and it looks great. What I always like to do when I finish is turn it inside out. That way our bottom portion of the bowl is a little bit more flat. And just like that, we have a fabric bowl. So we've just finished our fabric bowl and it came out awesome. It was a fun, fast, easy project to make. Something I want to show everyone is that both of these bowls have the same amount of fabric and same amount of cording. As you can tell, this bowl is much wider than this one. The reason being is the wider the base, the wider your bowl. The smaller the base, the taller your bowl is going to end up being. Thank you for watching this video. If you liked this video, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel. I'm going to leave instructions in the description below. My name's Teancum, teaching you how to sew like a pro. We'll see you next time here at Sew Yeah Quilting.